Um, well, I am Allison, and I would like to introduce you guys to our webinar. So, welcome in. So, this is our first webinar that we've done as Stop MPRP Incorporated. We felt like it was really important to bring you guys in and get a chance to know our organization a little bit better. So, to reintroduce myself, I am Allison, the Communications Chair for Stop MPRP, and I'm going to be your moderator this evening. And I have a co-moderator, Betsy, with me as well too. So she's going to help with some of the tech behind the scenes and jump in to help keep tonight running. We've got a lot of topics to cover. We got a lot of questions ahead of time, and we still want to make sure that you guys have some time to submit questions. So with that being said, I think that we're really just going to jump right in. So tonight's agenda, we are going to cover what Stop MPRP is. Most people on this webinar, I'm sure, are probably already pretty familiar, but we'll go over it one more time at a really high level. We are also then going to get into Stop MPRP Incorporated, so you can get to know the grassroots organization that was put together in order to stop the MPRP. And then we're going to go over what you need to know for when if your property is in the path, and then how you can help stop the MPRP. And then also we will open it up for questions and answers as well. So quick housekeeping, how to ask a question. So please submit your questions in the Q&A section, not the chat. So the chat is good for conversation and comments. However, if you would like to submit a question to be answered by our panelists, please make sure that you submit that into the Q&A feature. We want to answer as many questions as possible, but we do also recognize that we've already gotten a lot ahead of time, and we know quite a few are going to filter in. So just keep in mind that we are going to go through the most common and popular questions that seem to be coming through, and then we will follow up. If we don't get a chance to answer your question, we will follow up and we'll circle back around to it. Most likely via email, so make sure that you are subscribed to our email updates as well. So a quick disclaimer. The information that's shared during this webinar is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. All opinions expressed here represent the views of the speakers and not necessarily the official position of Stop MPRP Incorporated. This session is being recorded and may be shared across various media platforms, and by attending, you consent to this recording. Finally, while we do encourage open discussion, please avoid sharing sensitive information in the chat, as we are aware that we probably are not alone in the room. We most likely have representatives from the other side of the table that may view this webinar at some point. So please keep all questions and comments at a high level, and also understand if there's certain details that we don't go into. It is only for that reason alone. So with that being said, I am really excited to introduce our awesome panelists and speakers for today. So we have Joanne Frederick, who is the founder of Stop MPRP Incorporated, and she is the president of Stop MPRP. She is from Baltimore County. Her property is impacted by the MPRP, which is one of the reasons why she had this call to start the group. And then also we have Jim Earlbeck, who is a board member also from Baltimore County as well, and Charlotte Hedrick, who is a board member from Carroll County. You also get a chance to learn a little bit more about some of the other board members that we have. We do have board members representing each county to make sure that there's equal representation from each area. But these are the select few that are with us this evening to help get us up to speed on the organization. So let's get started with the very first topic. Let's dive into what is the MPRP. And for that, I am going to toss it over to Joanne.
Thank you, Allison. First, I would be remiss if I didn't extend a significant thanks to Allison and Betsy, who made all of this happen. We do get lots of questions, and we recognize that there are a lot of things going on. So answering all those questions timely is a challenge for this all volunteer organization. But Betsy and Allison, in a very short period of time, put this webinar together, and thank you both for making this happen. And thanks to the board members that are here, both panelist-wise and the ones that are also on the line. and the hundreds of people that are volunteering their time and effort to help us collectively stop this. This is truly a group effort. And it's an honor, honestly, to work with each of you and get to know people, my neighbors, that I would not have an opportunity to know otherwise. So it's been great. Okay, so what is the MPRP? And again, as Allison said, hopefully everyone here is at least vaguely familiar at this point, though we still are talking to people who don't know what the project is, so keep talking. But essentially a proposed 70-mile high voltage transmission line that will cut across Baltimore, Carroll, and Frederick County and take private land, homes, farms, businesses, wetlands, forests, etc., for the purposes of this high transmission line. PJM is the regional transmission organization. They released a series of requests for proposals and selected PSEG for this project through a competitive bidding process. The proposed routes were identified by PSEG, and as I said, and is repeated here, this is almost exclusively what they call a greenfield project, which means brand new. They're taking green private land to do this project. So that's really the high level of what the project is. And we could obviously spend hours and hours talking about how and why, but we'll get through some of that in the questions. So I think one thing for folks to know, just from understanding the size and scope of this is a 500 kilovolt line, 500,000 volt lines, which is about 2.3 times more powerful than the silver kind of lines that we're all used to seeing. So it is, almost 2.5 times more powerful. And there are questions on the health impacts, the negative impacts, the noise, et cetera. And I think all of you who have been on some of the PSEG seminars have been equally as dissatisfied as we with the answers to those questions. It stands to reason that a more powerful power line would have a larger impact on kind of across the board environment, health, et cetera. There's not much data to prove that at this point, but it does stand to reason. So let's go over the route maps. And I will, having gone to many events now in farmers markets, it's very difficult to navigate through this map to find where the routes are. And I inevitably, when I carry my iPad around and we show people where the routes are, I will say that it's really 10 proposed routes of these machinations on the map. And importantly, anywhere in the pink outline could be the final proposed route. So while they have suggested these proposed routes currently based on their 87 criteria, it really could locate anywhere. So just because you're safe today does not mean you'll be safe tomorrow. And I think that's part of the reason why we're working so hard to bring everyone across the 3 counties together. This is not a not in my backyard project. This is a not in our backyard project. And it's not okay for anyone across these 3 counties or quite frankly, anywhere else across Maryland. And we are being very proactive because this is likely to be the first of many. And the strength and noise we make to fight this one will help us protect the subsequent projects that could come down the line. And we'll talk a little bit about the why we're here in a bit. So who are we and why are we here? I think as most of you know, we all were surprised by this. I personally heard about this on the afternoon of July 8th, thanks to my neighbor, went to the first public session on July 9th, and then quickly rallied the friends and family and neighbors across the other 2 counties to attend the meetings. I met Charlotte at that first meeting. So this has quickly become a circle of trust and expanding centric circles of trust of getting out to people and people who know, et cetera, and bringing us all together. So we started moving and quickly found out that there were folks in Frederick County and folks in Carroll County thinking the same. And we, with the gift of network and friends, et cetera, brought everybody together and stood up this organization to keep us together, because it really is not in my backyard. It's not in Maryland type of project. So that's where we are with that. We're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization to represent the residents. We purposefully chose to be a 501c4 organization so we can do lobbying. That is a very important part of our mission here. I think lots of conversation about whose fault is this. And I think the best that we've learned is it's really not any one decision or one organization or one elected official's fault. It is a terrible perfect storm of a bunch of silos that have come together and short-sighted decisions at all levels of government that left us here. And we need to get back to those levels of government, federal, state, and local, and we are, to impact and affect change so we can stop this and keep this from happening again. So that's why we're a 501c4, and you can, of course, read lots more about the organization on our website. So one of the things we purposefully did was, again, to bring the 3 counties together, and chose 3 board members from Baltimore County, 3 board members from Frederick County, and 3 board members from Carroll County. And I am a co-founder. There were 5 original co-founders: Charlotte, Heidi, Mark Gregory, myself, and Steve Bright. We're the 5 original co-founders, and really got the organization started, and then continued the work to recruit the other fabulous and willing souls to round out our board with 3 folks from each county. And this is important because this truly is a tri-county effort. And it is certainly part and parcel of our mission, and what we're doing here is to represent all of the folks across the 3 counties. So you'll do a pre-plug for our event coming up in Leonore. Most of the board members will be at that event, so you can come and chat with all of us that will be there. I think 8 of 9 will be there, and really ask some questions and get to know us personally, and why we're all in the fight. I will say that every person on this board is impacted by the proposed project, and really that's why we're all here together. Okay, so committee structure, we published this prior, and I wanted to kind of go through a quick update. And as part of this update, we're going to just walk through a couple of the things that have been happening in each of these committees. I know there are lots of questions, and I will say that there's a lot of questions that get posed to the Facebook groups, and that's not always a really effective way to get answers, because the algorithms on Facebook toss things up and down all the time. And it's, God love Brenda Myers and Jen Frederick, who are trying to manage that, and the moderators. It's I don't even know what to say about Facebook. So we wanted to do 2 things. 1, tell everyone what we're doing and what's been going on. And 2, acknowledge that there are things going on that we're not putting out in public on Facebook purposefully. And that's for a very strategic reason. So I just would ask that if you have specific questions, reach out to the organization, the folks you know in the organization specifically, and we'll do our very best to answer them honestly and openly. And understand that we're playing 3-dimensional chess here, and we need to be careful that our specific strategies aren't in the wrong hands at the wrong time. So with that, we have our Advocacy and Outreach Committee, who is board sponsor is Mark Ferris, and Betsy is the committee chair. So I'll let Betsy talk for a couple minutes about what they're doing in that committee. Lots, by the way, but what's going on, Betsy, with your committee?
Great. And I think I have now all of us spotlighted. Or by speaker. So it's a pleasure to be with all of you. We're getting our feet under us on the Advocacy and Outreach Committee, and we're really kind of focused around a few key things in terms of trying to raise awareness, make sure everyone understands what's happening, and bring people together. So one effort we're doing is coalition building, trying to work across all the different organizations and across the different communities that are impacted by this. We've had great collaborations already with so many, and we're looking forward to doing more of that, because we know we're all stronger together. Each organization plays a role, and we need to be strategic and work together to win this battle. So we're building coalitions. We're cultivating media, spreading the word, answering questions from reporters, getting out press releases, responding to editorials and letters to the editor, ensuring the right information is being shared publicly as best we can possibly do. And ultimately just working through our awesome committee on trying to spread the word broadly. We just launched the Beneath the Yellow Line series you may have seen in the recent newsletter, featuring actually my property this time, but lots of people's properties. We're going to be telling the stories as we go, because we know there's a real emotional human element here that needs to be shared. We're tabling at events and handing out flyers. We had a great in the streets here in Frederick last Saturday that we did in collaboration with Envision Frederick County. Elizabeth Bauer, big shout out to you, again, one of the coalition partners, and doing community presentations at HOAs and other community groups. So that's just a flavor of what's happening on advocacy and outreach, and we always need more help. So we look forward to having you join us.
Yeah, from an environmental impact, we've done some initial outreach to like Department of Natural Resources and some resources in Carroll and Baltimore County relative to those programs. I will tell you that what we're hearing most frequently is, well, until the final route is published, we don't really know what the impact is going to be. And I think, as we've said all along, we're not waiting around for the final route. We have plenty of work that we could do now, which certainly we are doing. So we'll continue to monitor those things, and also preparing different papers, impact statements, et cetera, on all the different environmental impacts that are possible, regardless of where the final route is, certainly across the 3 counties, and talking about things like forest conservation, et cetera. So working on those papers, getting ready to utilize those both in public with advocacy and outreach, and with the Maryland Public Service Commission when that time comes. So that work is going underway. And we have Jim Earlbeck, who's the board sponsor for the Economic Impact Committee. Jim, would you like to let us know what's going on in your world?
Absolutely. Economic impact. We're looking at 4 main areas. They are the impact to the landowner, who may be the unlucky recipient of this 500,000 volt line crossing their farm, their home. We're also looking at the business operator, the person that operates a farm, a nursery, a horse farm for profit. We'll have modeling of how to approach what the economic impact is there. We'll also be monitoring the economic impact to everyone that's a utility ratepayer within the state of Maryland, because they'll be paying the price for these lines and any lines that will be coming in the future. The 4th leg of our platform is the economic impact of eminent domain. Personally speaking, I attended the very first meeting, public meeting, July the 9th at the Hereford Volunteer Fire Department, and I approached a PSEG rep and said, all right, so how does this work? Oh, you're a landowner. Yes, I am. We're going to make a fair deal. We love dealing directly with you, but if we can't, we'll use eminent domain. And that came out within the first 6 seconds. PSEG has backpedaled on that significantly, but still, that card's on the table. Eminent domain freaks a lot of people out. I'll be talking about this a little more in detail. It's nothing to be scared about. The state of Maryland is required to make you whole at fair market value. So they're not going to seize your land. They're not going to take it from you. You're going to be adequately compensated for it. So we'll talk a little more about that in detail later on.
But we're going to stop it before it even gets there, Jim. So
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So from an agricultural impact, I think, Jim's committee and Chris Weaver's committee will be working together on that agricultural impact to really do the modeling on what it means if you're a farm and you are impacted by this. And additionally, doing a work with the Maryland Farm Bureau. You saw that press release come out last week. I don't know if I've got Farm Bureau folks on the call, but we're kind of building a closer relationship with the Maryland Farm Bureau, and we'll continue to, work with them and collaborate with them over the coming months here, so we can make sure that we're all coordinated from a farm perspective. I was at the Baltimore County Council meeting on Monday evening this week, and they approved additional funds for agricultural preserve money, and I stayed in my seat and didn't raise my hand and say, well, aren't you going to make sure that land's protected when you approve the money? But those are different things that we're looking at, and how do all these pieces come together to really help strengthen our case to protect it? And then we go to fundraising and development with the board sponsor Heidi Lippy-Sprinkle and committee chair Teresa Frederick, who, yes, is my sister-in-law. So we can put that, answer that question. Right now, that committee is really focused on the Linganore event that's on September 28th. How many times can I say that? And getting that, making sure that event is fabulous. I have more and more elected officials. I got an email right before this started from Councilman Steve McKay saying he will attend and would be happy to speak. So we'll continue to share those speakers of our elected officials for that Linganore event but that's taken a lot of effort from many folks. And Karen Jokum's on the line. She's been doing a fabulous job getting that that event off the ground. So a lot of work there. We are planning on having fundraising events in Baltimore County and Carroll County. We don't have the details for those right now, but working on finalizing those details and plan to have at least 2 more events before the end of the calendar year. And then we've heard from several retail stores in the area that want to sell our Stop MPRP gear. We are selling signs and t-shirts. We have the Zazzle store where you can order different gear. And just if you go to the Zazzle store, you can design your own thing on the Zazzle store, on our Zazzle store, with the data that's there. So if there's a woman's shirt, but you want a man's shirt, or it's a short sleeve and you want a long sleeve, go for it, create it. Other people might like it too. And then what else? Signs to, yeah, that's what's going on. Lots in the fundraising and development committee. So legal and regulatory affairs committee, a few things going on there as well. We put out in an earlier email a couple weeks ago that we engaged Pilario Mazza, which is a government contracts firm out of DC. They brought to us kind of 3 legal strategies to implement, and felt like we needed an additional expert from a legal perspective on DOE, FERC, et cetera. We then, through a series of connections and conversations, talked to one law firm that conflicted out. We talked to a second law firm who claimed they did not have an organizational conflict of interest. They started working on some strategies, and 3 weeks later came back and said, whoops, sorry, we do have a conflict. So I obviously was not very happy about that. And there are some ethical questions about not doing a thorough job on an organizational conflict of interest search, but we are going forward. Susan Lynch, who is the committee chair, is in conversation with another attorney, and we expect to have a proposal from her here this week and get that additional legal support online. And with that support, we'll then really dive into the intervener process, et cetera. We have a bit more about that coming up, but we got set back a little, to be perfectly honest, from the Duncan Allen kind of false OCI issue, but we're, pulled our bootstraps up and we're moving forward. So from a governmental affairs perspective, I'm the board sponsor there, and there's been a lot going on. We gave a legislative package to a delegation from the state General Assembly earlier last week with a whole series of legislation concepts that could be implemented in Maryland to help put a stop to this and then, again, keep it from happening again. I mentioned I was at the Baltimore County Council this week and gave some testimony there. Baltimore County is working on a statement. They'll have that up for vote and discussion in their October meeting. So we'll publish the times of their work sessions in that October meeting so folks can come and support the statement they're going to make. We have several meetings being scheduled between October 1st and the 4th with the federal delegation. So right now, off the top of my head, I have 3 or 4 emails saying, yes, we'd love to meet with you. Let's work schedules. And we have Atlantic Strategies Group and David Hetlinger working with us on that as our lobbyist. And he was on Dutch Rupersberger's staff. So very well connected at the federal level and is helping us navigate through that. I just this afternoon got an email response from Governor Moore's office and connected to his deputy chief of staff. So we hope to have some meetings with them here in the near future to look for opportunities to collaborate and work together on what we can do from the governor's perspective. So lots and lots going on there. And encouraging. I think one of the things that I'm pleased about is we do have nonpartisan support. We do have, we've sent invitations to all the delegation, Frederick, Carroll, and Baltimore County for our Linganore event. We have folks from each county attending. We have folks that are willing to speak from each county attending. So I think we've managed much, all due really to everyone on this call and the many, many hundreds more of the tireless effort that everyone's putting forth to kind of raise awareness of this issue. So kudos to all of you for that. And then communications committee, Allison, tell us what you've got going on.
Okay, great. I'd love to. So, communications, I feel like we've got a really unique vantage point that we really get to take all of the hard work that all of these awesome committees are doing and pulling it together and making sure that we are keeping everybody that might potentially be impacted or stakeholders in general and the public at large are informed about what's going on. So, we have a daily update that goes out via email. So make sure you're subscribed to that if you are not already. And in that, we share a lot of high level content about different strategies that we could potentially take in order to get power that we need. And also, we give updates in terms of some of the organizational successes, calls to action for volunteers, and things like that. So, really, our role is to get the word out as largely as we possibly can, because together we can make our voice so much louder. So our primary focus is to share the key messaging and the strategy of the Stop MPRP organization. And we recently did just release a letter, or it's a 2-page flyer that is something that's really easy for somebody to print out at home, so we can really lean into the grassroots nature of our organization. So it's an informational flyer that's available. There's some quick links within our email, but then also it is on our website as well. So you can use that to print out and give to your neighbors, give to people in your community. You're waiting at a soccer game to pick up your kids. Really just help get the word out and help educate people. And so I really do believe that that's going to help, advocate and get our voice out there even louder. So we also are pulling together a lot of the research information that has been pulled together to try to make sure that people are as informed as possible. I know that a lot of people had a very similar experience, that when this was announced, it was really scary because this was all very new to us and in the dark. So, our job is to make sure that all the information is out there so that you feel comfortable and you know that there's people there that have your back and are going to be there the whole way through. So we have the privilege of being able to share that all with you guys. So lots of cool stuff to come too. So make sure you are following all of our social media, our email, newsletter, things like that, and you'll get to see all the stuff that is coming your way.
Thanks, Allison. And then membership and volunteers, Charlotte's our board sponsor there. There's quite a bit going on there with all the volunteers, et cetera. Charlotte, anything you want to add from that perspective?
I would just say, if you have an expertise where you think that you could help either one of our committees or help at an event, please sign up to be a volunteer. We have a form on our webpage that you can link to. And if you're not a member yet, absolutely, please become a member.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, so I'm going to try to gallop through the next couple of things here so we don't have to listen to me anymore and we can hear a bit more from others. So just from a membership perspective, we did purposefully keep the membership at what we hope is an affordable level, $10, and individual families for $15. There also are corporate memberships as well. And that really, the membership then gives us the ability to file lawsuits, et cetera, on behalf of our members. So we kept the number low so we could have lots of folks. And you can see here we have 522 members currently. Would love like 5,000 or so more. So please share with your friends, et cetera. Again, we're fighting to stop this project. That's our number one goal. We also acknowledge that this could happen again in other places. So we want to put in the protections that it can't happen in other places. And as Jim mentioned, we're all going to pay the bill for this project or all the other types of projects. So we have to really do a better job at the macro level, planning for transmission and energy, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a lot of our focus as well. So we need one and all to come in and join. 2,933 email subscribers, more than 10,000 folks on the community group. And we checked right before this meeting, more than 109,000 views on our website, and that's in 64 days. Our website's actually one of the top rated websites in the country for visitors at this point in time, which I'd love to celebrate and get an award for, but we don't have time for that. So we're just going to keep moving. Yeah, so keep spreading the word. Okay, mission and beliefs. I'm going to just cover this high level, and we'll make these, this information's on the website. And we'll share this information at the end of this presentation, but it really is progress and preservation go hand in hand. We've done a really good job here in Maryland of protecting what we all find value in, and we can find a way to balance progress and preservation. It does not have to be a one or nothing deal, and that's really kind of what we're looking at right now. I have said in updates and will say again, there are viable alternatives that mean that MPRP is not needed. We just need to get the folks with the power to make those alternatives real. We need to get them to do that, and we're working very hard to do that. But this project is, nothing I have seen proves that it is necessary. So we're working really hard to get that message out and make sure people understand the implications of that. My favorite stat I quote all the time now is the current electric grid across the United States, transmission grid, is only utilized at 50%. So we can double the current transmission grid on the stuff that's already there. We just have to do it in a way that is different than these types of projects. So we're working hard on that to get that information out to the people who need to know. Interests, beliefs, etc. Okay, quick financial update. So to date, we have receipts of $57,000. That's a combination of donations and membership, which is great. I mean, kudos again to all of you. We have expenses total right now of $29,142. You can see the cost there. Kind of that membership, volunteer donation software that's really helping us manage all of these folks in and out, etc. The legal retainer, the lobbyist retainer that goes through the end of the year, liability assurance, the website, email hosting, and then we have some expenses associated with the fundraising event at this point, and that's kind of where we stand. We know our legal expenses are going to go up. We know they will. And when we get this additional attorney on board and start to dig into the details there, when we get to the intervener process at the Maryland Public Service Commission, unless of course we're successful in crushing this before it gets there, that we will need additional funds. So I think that's another plug for our fundraising event. It's a great opportunity to come into community and be with folks that know exactly how you feel. We are all in this together, and really join us on this September 28th so we can, one, raise more money, and two, be in community with our neighbors and you know, give each other hugs and hold each other up, because this has been challenging for all of us, I'd say for sure. Okay, so again, lots of things going on, and I will just remind everyone here that this is an all volunteer organization, and gosh love every single person that is giving up countless hours, weekends, nights, etc. We've got committee meetings happening all the time. We have emails all the time. We have meetings all the time, and everyone here has other jobs. So it really is both a testament to all the folks in these 3 counties, and it goes to the seriousness of this issue and how very important it is to all of us that we stop this project. It is a travesty, it is devastation, and we're working really hard to make sure that happens. So, lots of things going on. Okay, so I'm gonna do the next slide, and then Jim's gonna talk for a while. So I noticed some, so we're gonna talk about this Certificate for Public Convenience and Necessity, CPCN process. We put a little bit of information in an earlier newsletter about this process. It is clearly outlined in the Code of Maryland, Part 20, Section 79, of the timeline that happens when a utility files for a new transmission project at the Maryland Public Service Commission. So I know we're getting geared up for the intervener process and what does that look like, but I wanted us to understand the clock here. So PSEG has to notify the Maryland Public Service Commission and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources Power Plant Research Program of an intent to file. That starts the clock. They have to make that notification 90 days prior to them filing the application for the CPCN or the permit. We don't know if they've done that yet. We've tried to ask that question, but I don't yet know if they have made that notification to Maryland PSC or the Maryland Department of Resources. If anybody has that, in fact, I would love to know that. Then at least 60 days prior to filing that permit, according to Maryland law, they have to hold a minimum of 1 public meeting. And there's a whole bunch of other rules and regulations about the meeting has to be in the community where the project is impacted, et cetera, et cetera. So we're on a clock timeline, race for the time here, right? And then we have to get notified. Landowners will be notified via mail of the project, and there has to be something in the newspaper, and that has to be on social media, and it has to be on the Maryland Public Service Commission. So there are all a series of things. Any one of us can look up the COMAR 20.79. If you go back to our website, look at updates, there's an email that explains this process, or an update that explains this process, and a PowerPoint that walks through kind of the Maryland Public Service Commission, connects right to the law. You can all read it and understand. The intervener process happens after that application gets filed, that permit gets filed. That's when, quickly thereafter, mind you, but that's when people start filing to be an intervener. And we're getting ready for that. And we will have training, if you will. So we will have our attorneys that will represent the organization as an intervener. And we also will do some training for everyone who wants to be their own intervener in addition. So stay tuned for that, but know that we have at least 60 days before we will have to file, before they file that permit. And it could be as much as 90 days, or it could be 88 days, et cetera. We don't have that first date, which is leaves us a little bit blind, but we will have 60 days. So pay attention, make sure you're signed up for the email, and we will put training out for everyone, and perhaps even do some in-person kind of little webinar or seminars on how to be a really good intervener. There are plenty of cases on Maryland Public Service Commission of people being interveners, and you can go and look through all the old case files of all the other projects and read for days, quite honestly, if you're interested in doing that. So I hope that answers some questions. And Jim, over to you.
Okay, know your rights, and we are still working on this. We are not trying to become your legal counsel. What we are trying to do, however, is make you an educated individual, so you can ask intelligent questions of your legal counsel and just have a general understanding as to how this works. So, indeed, they cannot execute eminent domain at this time. They may be knocking on your door saying, "Can I come onto your property?" And Maryland Title 12 real property states, I'm kind of a stickler for details, and I'm more than happy to share this to you, that statute 12-111, after every real and bona fide effort to notify the owner, engineers, appraisers acting on behalf of the state shall have the right. So they don't have the right until they've really tried their best to tell you they want to come onto your property. So if they just roll up to your door and say, "We're here, we want to take a look around," you get to say, "Okay, who are you?" Document everything they say, the time, that kind of thing, and then tell them to go away, because they haven't done their job to make a real notification and get your permission to come on the property. Keep in mind that their survey agreements are crafted in their interest, not yours. So if he wants to hand you one and he wants to say, "Sign this, we need to come," fine, give me a copy of it. I'll be back to you after I talk to counsel. You don't have to do anything right then and there. So be aware of their pressure tactics. They are going to try and strong arm you to get you to drop your guard and do things in a hurry. You don't have to. You've got time to consult professionals, and we'll be there with you to tell you who those professionals are and what questions to ask, and we will get you teed up properly. So don't let this whole thing panic you. It's not a big hairy monster under your bed. So be a holdout. Let's go back for a bit. So don't give in. They need to hustle this. And I will say this is a high level thought process. Time is not their friend. Time is not PSEG's friend or PJM's friend. They want to get this thing hustled through. You can look at their timeline. They announced it to the public on July the 3rd. I don't know what you guys were thinking on July the 3rd. I know what I was thinking of July the 3rd, and it wasn't about this. So just like Joanne, I didn't become aware until July the 8th because a neighbor told me, and then boom, July the 9th is the first public meeting. Well, how about that? So this is a hustle up process on their side. So don't let them do that to you. Also, you might be receiving offers from investment groups that want to make good off of a bad situation. They want to buy your property low. "Oh, sell it to me now. You're going to get screwed so bad." No, don't do that. Again, collect information, feed it back into us. We'll be there to support you. So demand accountability. Again, record everything, document it, write it down, slow them down, get a piece of paper, just take your time, breathe deep, You'll be fine. And then contact us. So who's going to handle this one? Is this, you want me to take care of this?
I think that's over to Charlotte, right? Allison, is that what?
Oh, yeah, how you can
Yes,
help,
it
that's
is.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. So how you can help, the first thing you can do is to become a member. And if you haven't joined yet, please, you can go to our website. It's really easy. You just sign up online. You can join as an individual or as a family member. And as you saw earlier, all those funds go right to help us support the legal fees that we need to cover. If you don't want to join a member, you can also just make a straight donation. We have our GoFundMe account. You can also, on the website, you can click donate, or you can send in the old fashioned way with the check. We are also always looking for volunteers. And when you saw the committee structure, if there's an expertise that you have that you think you can help us with, you can fill that out on the volunteer form. So when you click, I'd like to be a volunteer, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have a consistent schedule. If you just have something you want to do, if you want to help at one of the events, let us know. There's plenty of room for all that detail on the volunteer form, and we keep track of that, and we'll reach out to you. And then also, you can also help by sharing this information. There's so many people who don't still know what's happening, and it really does impact everyone in the state of Maryland. They'll end up paying for this if it ends up going through. So please share the information, share it on your social media, tell your friends, your neighbors, that sort of thing. So next slide. And then the other thing you can do is let your elected officials know. So we have the information where you can find that on this first link where it says elected officials, and you can always like snap this with your phone or copy that and save it to your computer. It'll take you to one of our pages where we have other links to help you find out who your elected officials are. You don't need to hit them with multiple letters. And if you already know if they are supporting Stop MPRP and don't want this to go through, you don't have to follow up with them. But if we haven't heard, definitely reach out to that official. And then the PSC, the Maryland PSC, you can also email them directly, letting them know that you do not want this project to go through as well. And then the other thing we have is our fundraiser, and we definitely need help getting this word out about this fundraiser. And as Joanne mentioned, this is a nonpartisan event. This has been a great way for us to connect with our neighbors. I've met so many people becoming involved with this and so many other farmers. It's been wonderful. So for only just to come out and meet your neighbors is a great reason just to join this fundraiser. We'll be there. We'll have plenty of other people there. It'll be music, it'll be drinks, it'll be fun. So again, also share this on your social media as well. We really appreciate it.
T-shirts, signs will be there. And Mike Kuster is like climbing the charts in the UK on the country record. So he's like number 5 in the United Kingdom as a country artist. So I think that's pretty cool. We should, get to enjoy that entertainment. Okay.
All right, well, fantastic. I think at this point we have covered a lot of really good information. I know that I learned new stuff, which was fantastic because there's always so many things going on. So really appreciate that update from our panelists and our speakers. Now I think we are at a good point for us to be able to turn it over to the Q&A section of our presentation. So we did get some questions in advance, and so I went through and organized them in terms of their popularity. I will also remind you guys that we have only been experts for the last 64 days. So we're learning as we go. So we are going to do our best to answer all of these questions, but there are some things that we just don't know yet. So, we're regular people, we're your neighbors, right? So we're just doing our best to research and get this information out there, to hopefully, put you guys at ease and make a stronger community together. So we'll go through the questions that were submitted online ahead of time, and then also please feel free to drop questions into the Q&A as well. We probably won't get a chance to go through all of them. However, we'll make sure that we go through the heavy hitters that we can answer, and we will follow up with the rest of them via email through our email newsletter. So make sure that you are subscribed to that as well too. So
You can corner board members next week at the Linganore event.
That's a great point. You will have a captive audience of our board members if you come to the Linganore event. So if you come to that, you will get a chance to bend their ear for a second and learn about all the cool stuff that we've got going on. And that's a good point too. Please, if there's something that you really want to talk to somebody about, you can reach out directly, and we'll certainly do our best to answer too. So the question number one that came in that was most popular. Has there been any update on when the final route is going to be announced? People are wondering on if there's been any update on that.
No, there hasn't. I think the last we heard from PSEG was at the meeting in Hereford, and they said it would be, quote, this fall. They are, of course, the Frederick County Executive, Fitzwater, is having a meeting and has invited PSEG on the 9th of October. There is some speculation that the route will be announced just prior to that meeting, but it is only speculation. We have not heard a more recent update than that.
Fantastic. So can you expect to receive any type of compensation if the towers are going to be close to your property? And how far, does your home have to be in order to not have some type of risk?
So I think that's maybe a two-part question. Jim, you want to handle the close to your property piece?
At this time, close to your property, meaning personally for me, I am on one of the proposed routes. My immediate neighbor would receive nothing. There is an effort to expand that compensation such that those people that lose their view space are compensated as well, because obviously a tower in my property is so close to my neighbor that their property is going to drop in value too. So if you look at it from what's fair, they should receive some compensation because they've taken a hit. As far as I'm concerned, with the line going through my property, yes, they will pay me for that easement, but they also, if it goes to eminent domain, and their offer should be to me such that it doesn't go to eminent domain, to compensate me for the devaluation of my property, the remaining property. So it's not just about the 150 feet wide swath of land they're taking the easement on. It's also the rest of your property. So keep that in mind. Title 12, the statute does require you, not to get too deep into this stuff. In addition, fair market value includes any amount by which the price reflects a diminution in value occurring between the effective date of legislation authority, the acquisition of property, and the date of the take. So don't worry about what you're doing now. It's the date of what happens, but the fair market value is plus any severance or resulting damages to the remaining land by reason of the taking and of future use by plaintiff, that's the landowner, of the part taken. So you get paid for both parts. So again, it's not a big hairy monster under your bed.
And we have in the kind of ideas for legislation that we sent to the Maryland delegation last week, we recommended some action on viewshed. There are laws in some other states that do protect the viewshed, and so we did recommend that our legislators look at those opportunities as well. To our goal here is to make it so hard for PSEG to do this that they simply crawl away into the night, much like they crawled into the night. Okay, Allison.
So what about farmers or people that have forest on their properties? Are they going to be compensated for the loss of their agricultural products or for their timber resources?
Again, my understanding of how that works is yes, they would be, because that diminishes the value of the remaining property. So if there is value in a forest, a wood stand, then and it's removed, yes, they have to be compensated for that.
Is it true that there's already infrastructure in place that they could utilize? And if so, have they expressed why they're not going that route?
And I'll handle that one too, unless you want to jump in, Joanne, but
Start, and I'll go ahead.
okay. So there is technology not being employed. I specifically asked PSEG at a meeting if they were using any of the advanced conductor cables on this new line of MPRP. The answer was no. They're using legacy cables. The advanced cables is called reconductoring. If they were hung on existing towers, would double the capacity of the existing towers and reduce the energy loss by 40%. So that's 40% free energy to the public. That's 40% savings in carbon emissions. And yet the stance of PJM is no new technology. We want to stick with the old stuff. We know what it is. And I personally believe the main driver in that is that the utility companies, as the Office of the Public Counsel pointed out, it allows utilities to charge customers for the costs of projects before these projects are used to serve the customer. So you're paying for that in advance, and they are paid on the size of their asset. So the bigger the spend, the more money the utility company makes. So if reconductoring comes in at a lower cost and saves everyone money, that's not really good for them. They want to spend your money. And again, it's your money you're spending because the ratepayer is the one that foots the bill at the end of the day.
And, you know, we say things like this, and it is baffling that this could even be possible, but yet that is where we are. So we're dealing with the facts with which we are presented, and we're fighting those angles. I did speak with a representative from BG&E 2 weeks ago, and I actually have another meeting with them tomorrow. And they told me that PSEG had not contacted BG&E as of 2 weeks ago to ask them if they could use the existing transmission lines. So PJM awarded this contract to PSEG. PSEG doesn't have any transmission lines, so their answer was, let's just go take a bunch of people's land to put these transmission lines in. There are so many things wrong with that entire process, and we have lots of questions on that. So we're certainly pushing on those events.
And there's other technologies beyond the advanced conductors. There are devices called GETs, grid enhancing technology sources. They monitor the lines, report back to the computer, and they use the lines that are being underutilized, take power off the lines that are being overutilized. And again, this is almost like free energy, but the utility companies don't really want to embrace these things because it's not their point of biggest reward as a operational business. And at the end of the day, they're looking for their profit. They're looking for
yeah, I think that absolutely. So that PSEG and PJM for sure. And my conversations with BGE, they want to put battery storage on the existing transmission lines to help kind of fill the gap, but they were not awarded this contract. And then PJM pushed back and said these battery storage facilities won't, you know, really do the job, when the Department of Energy is saying, yes, they do a great job. So we got a lot of this going on, and we're going to get to the bottom of that. So we're working on that.
And I'm seeing two questions, if you don't mind me jumping in, that I'd love to have folks address. One is speaking to, are there other communities that have successfully stopped a project like this?
Yes, there are. There are several, and we've chatted with the folks in Pennsylvania. There's some Loudoun County. They just announced that they are going to use the existing transmission line. So there's different flavors of success. In Maine, they started putting them underground. So it really just kind of depends on the exact nature of the project, but there is success. And in today's actually New York Times, there was a whole article about a project, not exactly the same, but the divide in Colorado where they were trying to run pipelines, and this community group got together and hired lawyers and started fighting, and they got that project stopped. So there are success stories here, and we're learning as much as we can from those folks while we're kind of finalizing our strategy here. So there is hope. I have hope. I have hope.
And I'm seeing also some questions about, Joanne, something you mentioned earlier that was raised around intervening, or the intervener role. Lots of folks are asking kind of to a little more clarity on what is the intervener, and what should they know about that prior to it being an option.
Yeah, so I don't have all the details on that yet. I'm not as smart as I want to be before I would be ready to talk about that. But what I do know is when PSEG files for the permit at the Maryland Public Service Commission, you essentially fill out some paperwork, raise your hand, and say, I have an opinion on this and I want to be heard. And you're accepted as an intervener in that process. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that have to happen. That's what will get some training, better understand from the attorney that'll come on board, et cetera, and be ready to really both educate ourselves and educate everyone else on what we need to do, where and when that happens.
And one last question from me, and then Allison, I'm sure, well, this is from me, from our audience, and then Allison, I'm sure you're seeing others, is I've seen folks asking about, it kind of relates to this in a way, like, should folks individual property owners be trying to get legal representation now, or is this something to wait on? Any suggestions around that?
So I will tell everyone that finding attorneys that aren't conflicted out it's very difficult. Unfortunately, the bad guys did probably very strategically go around and get a lot of attorneys signed up on their behalf. So once we get our attorney on board here, again, hopefully I'll have that proposal this week, and we're going to move really fast on that. We'll get the advice from that counsel on exactly how that should happen and what we should do. So once we get a little bit smarter, we'll share all that information.
So another question that we've gotten asked as well too, is this in any way related to green energy projects?
Yeah, that's a good one. So you know, again, 64 days in, but here is kind of my big picture summary of this whole thing. There are two things happening at once. One, we are implementing more green energy, clean energy projects. At the same time, there is unprecedented growth on energy demand, both from electrification and data centers and AI. And in the last decade or so, energy consumption was actually dropping. So my words, the energy regional transmission organizations perhaps got a bit lazy and weren't really looking out ahead to what energy demand could be in the future, and were kind of sitting back on their laurels and just raking in their money and being happy with it. There's not any one thing here that actually caused this. I think it really is a bit of a perfect storm of unintended consequences. A lot of our government works in silos. We have the energy department and the natural resources department and the environmental protection agency, and they're all doing different things. And nobody's really looking at this from a systemic perspective and a holistic perspective to say, wow, if I start turning off all fossil fuel power plants, that means the only way I have to get electricity around is a high transmission power line. That's incongruent. That doesn't seem to be congruent with green energy. I really do not believe, and again, my opinion, that this was intentionally done by anyone. I think it is just we have rushed our way forward, and now people are going, whoops. And I met with the Sierra Club like at the end of July when this first happened, Maryland Sierra Club, and I said point blank, explain to me how closing a fossil fuel power plant that then results in taking 70 miles of forest makes sense. I can't reconcile that. Explain that to me. And they did not have an answer to that question. They said they would get back to me. I did email them again last week and said, hey, any news? What's your answer? And they're still working on the answer. So I think, I don't think there's been any malice here, really. I think it's just our government works in very mysterious ways sometimes, and no one saw this coming. And now we're caught in the middle. And those are the kinds of things we're really highlighting too. Like, listen, this is not okay. We can't walk our way into the future like this. Jim, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I'd like to reinforce that thought. I don't think this was done by malice. It was just done by short-sightedness because the government is a siloed operation. When you look at the fact that the state of Maryland decades ago generated 100% of its electricity, we've shut down fossil fuel plants in an effort to go green. That's a good thing. Which put us in a position where we have to import 40% of our power. So the 40% of the power comes from other states. How is that generated? Well, 38% of that 40% that we import by PJM's numbers is generated by coal. So we're not firing up our coal plants, somebody else is, but because we have an extension cord to their plant, therefore we're green. That's just not a cohesive program. So Maryland overall deserves a better plan. This is a patchwork thing. PJM is just, they're just putting this as the MPR thing as an extension cord. We can't extension cord our way to where we want to be in the future.
Yeah. And that is to kind of put the bow on the top of that. And I know we're at time here. One of the recommendations we've made is that the governor require what's called an integrated resource plan. We wrote about this. An integrated resource plan would require our Maryland public utilities to come together and make a plan for Maryland. Without that plan, which is not required by law here in Maryland today, I expect that will change. Without that IRP, we are left to the whims of what PJM thinks they need to do here. So we have got to control our own fates. And I think universally, all the elected officials I've talked to, again, all three levels of government, are believe that that is a good strategy. So we just need to get that implemented, and that will help and put control and power back into at least the hands of the Marylanders and the Maryland Public Utilities. That's a very important next step here. Okay, we could be here for hours more. I know.
I know.
We might have to do this again. We might have to do it again.
Now, 5 hours at Linganore, let me say that again, 5 hours of questions and answers at Linganore. Gosh, help us all, if you can join us there.
And I'll just add just real quick to that point, and then Allison would love to turn it back to you to kind of close it out today. But I will say we are, I've seen some questions about this. We are recording this webinar. We will make it available. And also all of the questions, because I'm seeing in here, there are lots of questions we didn't get to. We wanted to make sure we've shared kind of an overview with everyone, kind of get everyone grounded on where we are with Stop MPRP Inc. and start to answer questions. More will be coming, and we will save these questions and try to address more of these, I imagine. And I don't want to speak for Allison, but through our outreach and our communications teams, we will do our best to get you answers as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Thank you, Betsy. I appreciate that. Yeah, and so with that, I'll kind of wrap up and say that. I have myself muted. It's my first.
That was my fault. That was my fault. I had it all perfect until the very end, y'all.
Almost had it. We almost had it. So yeah, as Betsy said, we will do our best to make sure that these questions get answered. We got so many, so very difficult to get through them all in our time slot that we've got here. But please know that we are actively researching all of the questions that you guys have presented, and we are doing our absolute best to try to get these answers to you. That's what this organization is about. It's about putting our efforts together collectively so that we don't all have to be alone in our separate corners. We can come together as a community and make our voice heard as a community. So the last reminder, we do really encourage you guys to come out to the Linganore event, because it is so much more than a fundraiser. It really is an opportunity to get our community together and for you to meet your allies and for you to see that you are not alone. So please make sure that you invite your friends and family, come on out. Even if you can't make it, there is also an option as well to just make a donation as well. To show support for the event. But it is going to be a really cool time just to get everybody together, and hopefully you'll be able to meet some of our board members in person and ask some of these terrific questions. So make sure, once again, you are subscribed to our email updates. That is the best way to learn about all of the things Stop MPRP Incorporated. If you go to our website, stopmprp.com, and scroll to the very bottom, there is a link to sign up for our email updates. That is free. We are putting out, information just to benefit the community that's impacted by this. So thank you so much for everybody that signed up. We had a terrific turnout. So like Betsy said, maybe we'll have to do this again. And I really appreciate our board members, Jim and Charlotte and Joanne, for being here with us, and Betsy for helping make this all happen. So great team effort, and hopefully we'll see you guys at Linganore.
Thank you, team. Good job.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.